Good evening, everybody. Slightly different setup tonight as I'm not actually knitting. If you saw my tweet, if you got the notification, you know that this is instead a frogging party tonight. My name is Kris. I am an American Australian living in Munich, Germany. I've been doing this streaming thing for, a month or two now. Normally I'm here knitting. I finished my last knitting project. That's the jumper you see me wearing right now. That is Lenatus by Susan Crawford. So if you've seen any of my previous streams, this is what I was working on, which I just finished. I finished weaving in the ends. And so it's time to either cast on something else. And I went and had a dig in the work in project bag. And I've had a jumper sitting in the bag for several years now that I started knitting. And that project is called Orkney, which is from a Rowan magazine, Rowan 52. If you're a knitter, you know Rowan magazines are gorgeous. And they, they're just really well styled and the designs are all beautiful. And so the particular cardigan, it was a cardigan that I started knitting, a Fair Isle cardigan. And it was called Orkney. And I'll just show you the pattern page on Ravelry so you can see what it looks like. So that's Orkney there. And so it's an all over Fair Isle cardigan. You can see 365 people have knitted this. I started this. I bought all the wool. This is not cheap wool. It uses 10 different colors of fairly pricey wool back in Australia. So I started knitting this many years ago. I was knitting it in the round and got all the way up to the shoulders and then suddenly realized that it's looking way too small. Why I knitted the entire thing before I realized it's looking way too small is beyond me. But I put it in a bag and shoved it in the corner and it's been there ever since. So one of my New Year's resolutions this year was to deal with Orkney. And so if you watch the stream, a few days back, I pulled it out. I pulled it out of the bag and I will switch back and hold it up so you can actually see it. So here we go. So as you can see, it's actually beautiful. It's beautifully knitted. It's beautifully knitted. It's a lot of work in this. But tonight I got it out and I measured it. And the pattern does come with schematics. And according to the size that I am knitting, this cardigan should measure 61 centimeters across the front. It measures 51 centimeters. So it's 4 inches too small. And that's across the front. You multiply that by the front and the back, it means that overall I'm going to be 8 inches too small in circumference on this jumper, which is quite a discrepancy, which kind of sucks. And then I checked my tension because, we talk about this on the show that on my stream that, if you're starting out, you're supposed to knit a tension swatch before you start a project and then compare that to what the pattern specifies to see if you need to adjust your needle size. Well, it looks like, judging by these needles, which I just measured, I'm using the size specified in the pattern, which, well, no, I'm using slightly bigger. I'm using a 3.75. Which I feel like the needle size for this is wrong because this wool, felted tweed, is supposed to be 3 3/4 to 4. It's a DK. It's an 8 ply. And yet the pattern specifies knitting it with 2.75 and 3.25 millimeter needles. So I think that's wrong. And there's a whole Ravelry thread about this. The tension you're supposed to get is 25 stitches and 29 rows over 4 inches, 10 centimeters. And I am getting 31 stitches and 33 rows. So I'm getting more stitches per 4 inches, which is why mine is coming out smaller. And that really sucks. So I went, I measured it. I actually held it up and tried to see against myself. I held it up against other garments. The other day when I got it out and we were talking about it, it felt like maybe it was going to be big enough and it was going to work, but it's just not going to work. It's not going to work. And what's more, the tension on it feels really thick and tight. It feels like it's super thick. It doesn't feel like something that I'm going to enjoy wearing. And so Why put in the work to finish it? It's, it's only 50% done at this point because it's still got to steek it and put on the collar and the button bands and knit the sleeves and attach them. That's a hell of a lot of work. Why should I do that if it's not gonna fit me? So instead, I'm gonna frog it. And frogging is what we call it. We say frogging because when you rip it, get it? Frogging. So I'm gonna frog this sucker, and it's painful. It's painful to me, but I think it's a necessary evil. And so I've got my 10 colors, 10 colors of yarn here. An embarrassment of colors of yarn of this stuff that I'm gonna have to painstakingly now wind all these bits on and then reknit. So let's do it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna pull the needle out right now. I'm pulling the needle out, people. It's happening. And once I have it frogged, then the question is, will I try again? One option is to try again with a bigger needle size. Oh, I had some really cute stitch markers used on this one, huh? So I could try it again with a bigger needle size. I'm already using a 3.75 for the body, which pattern called for a 3.25. I probably need like a 4.5 to get the actual gauge. So I'm gonna have to go up quite significantly on the needle size. Or, I mean, and I do think I do want to go up some because the tension on the body, as I said, it is really thick. Okay, needle is out. Needle is out, and Orkney is off the needles. I feel like I do want to go up a needle size just because the way the fabric feels isn't super nice. Okay, first motif is coming undone. I should turn the camera down so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. If I aim it down a little bit more. There you go. Yeah, so I'll reknit again with bigger needles. But I might also knit an even larger size. Shame, shame, shame. Okay. Now I've just got to, as I undo each color, find the actual yarn that it matches and wind it back. Now, the clever amongst you are thinking, Kris, you're going to have cut this yarn and it's going to have a lot of little pieces now, which is going to make knitting another thing an absolute pain in the ass. You would be correct. You would be correct. But I would rather have to deal with, it might mean that I need to buy an extra ball of each of these colors, which introduces its own challenge because some of the colors I have are discontinued. It's not that, like, normally that is a pain and that is a problem because, we've talked before about dye lots and wanting to get the same dye lot. I don't think dye lot's going to matter on this because all the colors are separated from each other. They're mixed up higgledy-piggledy. If I have to buy another ball of this one and it's not the exact same shade, you're not going to know because I won't be using it against itself. It'll be only against other colors. So it'll be fine. So yeah, so I may need to go diving. And I mean, if it's that I can't get one of the colors, it might be that I sub in another color on the sleeves. And I don't necessarily think that's a problem either if the sleeve has a different color in it. All right, okay, so now I'm undoing two colors at once here. So which color is this one? This one is... So if you're watching, someone's watching, feel free to say hi in the chat and keep me company. And tell me about your worst knitting mistake because I don't know how I put in what had to be quite a lot of hours of knitting and not realize that the damn thing was never going to fit me. That is called willful ignorance, my friends. Willful ignorance. Now, when you frog, one thing you'll notice, and especially because this yarn's been sitting knitted for years, is it's all kinked up. theoretically, before I knit with it, I should wind it into skeins and wash it to relax it. Am I going to do this? I've never done it before. I'm going to wind it into a ball. And the tension I'm not winding it tight on the ball. I'm putting it under a little bit of tension, but I'm not winding it tight. You don't want to wind your balls really tight. It will sort of destroy any elasticity in the yarn. This stuff, by the way, the Rowan Felted Tweed, that's the yarn that I'm using. And I'll put if you haven't seen it before, it's a beautiful yarn. I mean, I'll put it in the chat now. It is a beautiful yarn. It's merino, alpaca, and viscose, rayon, basically. And it's got this sort of, tweedy, felty look to it. The colors are all designed by the famous designer, Calf Fassett or Caffey Fassett. I'm not quite sure how he says it. But he's just this amazing artist who designs tapestries and knitting patterns and jumpers, and it has just an amazing eye for color and pattern, shape. He's the one who did the colors, but it's a tweedy effect. And I'm just pulling the sucker apart. You know what though? I mean, it was actually really fun to knit, so it'll be fun to knit it again. It'll be fun to knit it again. It'll be fun to know, hey, Margaret. It'll be fun to know, Margaret, my God, you get up early. It'll be fun to know that it actually fits me. I'm not going to put all this effort into something that, looking at it, I just know is not going to fit me. How depressing. Sometimes our knitting is not a win. Lanatus, mostly a win. Big fan of that, but lest you think everything I knit is a home run, it is not. I have knitted a lot of stuff that did not work, and this is one of them. Yeah, I think I will definitely be going up a fair few needle sizes because this just feels way too thick. Like, yes, it is 8 ply, in 2 layers using 2 colors makes it thick anyway, but it's, yeah. Is that sleeping pattern, Margaret, is that by choice, or are you a fellow insomniac? Or do you have just its obligations? So yeah, I didn't bother setting up the knit cam, the overhead knit cam today because there's nothing super exciting that you want to see. It's just me tearing this jumper apart. Incidentally, if you do want to see, by the way, because I promised finishing the Lanatus weaving in the ends, I actually made a video on YouTube showing a couple of them how I did it. And so I'll share that in the chat now. But if you haven't seen it, that's a little video of weaving in the ends on this jumper, on Lanatus, just showing you how I do it. There's a lot of different ways to weave in ends, and it's always useful to see how other people do things. Doesn't necessarily mean theirs is any better. But the good news is when you knit circular things, usually don't have many ends to weave in. And see, I thought I was so clever with this one too, because I'm steeking it, and I'll explain that in a minute, I wasn't going to have any ends to weave in. I thought I was being so clever. Just didn't knit the right size. Sometimes frogging still feels like forward progress. Margaret says she's always been an early riser. Wow. When you were a kid, you weren't allowed to leave bed before 5 a.m. Oh, you're one of those. Yeah. I feel like I would be an entirely different person. If I like a better version of myself, I feel like there's an alternate universe where there's a Kris who's an early riser, and it's just she's just better at everything because I am not. I don't like, well, and it's not that I sleep a lot. It's just that I tend to be a bit nocturnal. That if given, without a forcing function of having to go into work or have meetings in the morning, my bedtime creeps later and later. And then I've never slept into like midday or anything, but I think in an ideal world, I stay up till midnight or 1 a.m. and then get up around 8 or 9 because that's what we ended up drifting into over the Christmas holiday. That's just my natural circadian rhythm. Gives you a chance to read the internet before you start the day. Yes, but then, when I do that, I find it bums me out. I mean, I know there's heaps going on today actually the frogging is helping me avoid reading stuff that I know is going to piss me off. Steeking. I said I would talk to you about steeking. Well, let me get this color pulled off and then I will. So this pattern is written. It's written to be knitted in pieces. You knit a back, you knit 2 fronts, you knit 2 sleeves, you sew it together, which means that you have to do a row of knit and then turn around and go back the other day and do a row of purl. And doing Fair Isle in purl, if you've seen my other video about it, it's possible. It's just not fast and not easy. It's much faster to go round and round and knit the whole way. And so what I did was I modified it to be knitted in the round. And so as you can see, this is actually a tube. There's an opening. So it's a tube and there's a bit up the front. I don't know if you can see, if I hold it up, sort of this, where is it? This bit right here where the pattern kind of goes in the middle. That's the steek. And so what I did is I cast on an extra 7 stitches, sacrificial stitches up the middle. And that's where I was going to cut this sucker open. So I basically I knitted one side, then the back, and then the other side, combined them all in a tube. I was knitting round and round and round. And so I was going to cut them up the middle. And so the great thing is all of my ends for the start and end of the rows run up and down the middle of that. And I wasn't going to have to weave them in because I'm going to cut up and down that anyway. But that didn't work. And the sleeves, I actually have the sleeves I was going to steek as well. So you see there's a funny little bit there. That's the armpit. And then I cast on, again, 7 stitches to act as the sleeve stake. So I planned all that meticulously. I just didn't get the bloody size right, did I? Okay. Purple. Where's the purple? Actually quite low on the purple. I mean, maybe I'll knit a vest. That was the other option I was thinking of, is I'll just, stuff this pattern. I'll find a vest pattern that I like a sleeveless sweater, and I will just apply that's an idea. That's what I'll do. I'll get more wear out of that. I don't actually wear cardigans that much. I'm going to knit a vest. I'm going to just stuff the pattern, and I'm going to find an 8-ply vest pattern, and I'm just going to apply this Fair Isle chart to it. How's that sound? That sounds good. That's what I'm going to do. Why is this not wanting to come undone? Where's the end of this? Ah, here we go. This is a funny mustardy kind of a color. Which color is this? I think this is cinnamon. Some of them have spice names. So it snowed today. It snowed. We've had like a couple inches of snow. We had snow, we had a little bit of Christmas Day, and we had some back in earlier in December. But this was like the first proper snow in Munich. And Rod technically thinks that it might be the only one we get. Like, Munich's not known for being super snowy, so it might be that we don't get It might be that it just melts and that's just it, but it was kind of nice. Okay, done. There's the cinnamon. I mean, Lenatus, if you'll recall, I had to pull this one apart. I had knitted, down halfway through the fair isle before I realized I was reading the pattern wrong. Okay, back to the purple. So yes, I will have some wastage when I reknit this because, as I said, I've cut the yarn. Each time a color stops being used and I cut it, and this stuff, because of the rayon and because of the alpaca, will not, I can't spit. I thought at first I could spit felt it back together, and we've talked about spit felting, but it actually doesn't felt itself back together. So that sucks. I am going to have to, gonna have to just suck it up and have ends. There we go. This is sort of I think is this charcoal? This one? This is charcoal. Carbon, it's called, carbon. I mean, this stuff isn't cheap. So I'd rather knit something I will actually wear. And it does want to stick to itself. That's it. It doesn't, it doesn't unravel too easily, which is why the steeking should be okay. Because, yes, I will probably run some sewing machine stitches. Except I'm going to do a vest, so I don't have to steek. Never mind. Strike that. I guess the question is, I could still steek the armholes on a vest. You can still do that. Just so I can knit it in the round as a tube, I might do that. So I might still have a steek. Rip it, rip it, rip it. I figured this would be a pretty empty stream this time. I mean, it's earlier in the day for the US, but they're all either at work or preoccupied with election results, so the death of democracy and everything. And the Aussies, it's very early in the morning, so only people like Margaret are actually awake. This is an interesting color. What color is this? It's sort of a bluey, navy bluey. Destruction. So yeah, if you're joining, normally I'm actually knitting, but not today. Today we decided that the project that I was working on is, unless I miraculously drop 2 sizes, I'd be better off actually knitting it in the size that I am. And it's not that size. My tension is way off. Instead of being 25 stitches over 4 inches, mine is 31, which, so, over 4 inches, mine is going to be considerably small. Over a given number of stitches, mine's going to be considerably smaller. So yeah, the front and back ended up being 4 inches too small on each side, which is a fairly massive error. But again, I think the pattern has the needle sizes wrong. It does have errata. That's the thing. I printed off the PDF. And here's the hilarious part. So the actual chart for the front and back, look at this. First of all, look how bloody tiny that is, okay? That is tiny. And then they go and they're like, oh, whoops, there was a mistake. So they give you They give you 2 more pages to print out. It just says addendum. There's a mistake. It doesn't actually say what the mistake was. It just says this is the version you should use. So I believe I was knitting from this one. So that's another reason to do it over again is clearly whatever the mistake was, I knitted the mistake into the garment. So, I don't know. Okay, this is a kind of a dark dragony green. You'll notice I'm going around and around. That's because I had divided for the neck. So even when you steek, there is still probably going to be a point at which you knit back and forth. And that's because when you get to the bottom of the neck here, you cast off in the middle. And so I was actually going around and around and around on back and forth around the shoulder area. So I'm not actually pulling all the way around and around and around yet, if you're wondering why the wool is not going around in circles yet. I wonder how quickly I can frog this. If I can get it frogged in one night. Look at that. See, there's an example like that one row. I've got a strand of this, gingery cinnamon, not cinnamon. What is this one called? I can't remember. But, just means I'm going to have a lot of ends when I reknit the vest. That's okay. If I don't do sleeves, I should have enough wool. And in fact, I feel like there's a color. I feel like this color I didn't even use on the body. I feel like this color might only be used, it might only be used on the sleeves. So I could also sub this in for one of the motifs. Maybe some of the purple, because I've got a lot of, although it's kind of an acidy yellow and I don't like it. So maybe I'll leave it out and just, because I shouldn't need it. Like, look, I've clearly got plenty of wool to do a vest, even knitting in a bigger size. So, yeah, that last color, I think it's called Mineral. Like, maybe I don't even need that. Some more of that green. Bits and pieces already. And that's part of that. Actually, it took me a while to work out which color was which, because, of course, again, learn from my mistakes. Didn't actually save the labels, the ball bands for these, and so had to go back to the website and download the row and color card and try and compare off my monitor, which, computer monitors are not great for visualizing yarn colors in real life. Like, it will never look the same as on, in the hand as it does on your computer monitor. So I'm trying to figure out which one's which. Okay. This is that navy-ish color again. The fact that I'm not using my overhead knitting camera, the iPhone that normally points down at my knitting, means that instead my microphone stand can actually be used as a microphone, which means you get the fancy microphone today instead of just the headphone one. So you get to listen to me frogging in glorious, glorious sound. Another single. I can't remember, but I saw in the Ravelry comments, I don't remember them giving me a problem, but a few people were saying this pattern has rounds where you have 3 colors in one row, which again is non-standard for Fair Isle. Usually traditional Fair Isle only will have 2 colors in a given row. Oh, I'm back to where they actually, cool. I'm back to the, to the round and around bit. So I'm just going to undo the cast off edge along those neck steek stitches there. So remember, I'd cast off those ones in the middle. So I'm just going to undo that cast off. And there we go. Now we're going around and around and around. Should go a little faster. Is that the right color? Good grief, no. It's slightly darker. These two colors are very similar. I need a daylight lamp. What was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Now we're going round and round and round. So I started watching Staged last night, the new series of, and it's very, very good. It's the show Michael Sheen and David Tennant filmed in quarantine earlier in the year. They've just done a second series. It's available in the UK and it's on BBC iPlayer. So if you know what a VPN is and you're interested, you may be able to procure such things. But yeah, it's really good. I'm sure it'll be in Australia on ABC or SBS eventually. But can recommend. Also, my nose is running because I don't know, I got this wool out of the bag and it's actually, I think it's dusty. I have a bit of a dust mite allergy and this project has been sitting for so long. I think it's actually gotten a little bit dusty because it is actually making me sneeze. And normally wool does not make me sneeze. Someone's just joined the stream. Welcome. Welcome tonight to Frogging with Kris. This was a Fair Owl cardigan that I started knitting several years ago that I am now acknowledging is going to be vastly too small for me. So I'm pulling it apart and I'm going to reknit it into something else. I'm going to use this wool and I'm going to steal the chart and I'm going to make it into a vest that I will actually wear rather than a cardigan that I will not. I've actually, the other idea I thought of was, continue on and give it to someone smaller than me. But no, I want this. I fell in love with the pattern and it bought the wool to make it for me. So it's going to be for me. Yes, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you want to share any of your own horrendous knitting mistakes, feel free. Such as knitting the body and both fronts of a steeked Fair Owl cardigan before realizing that it was never going to fit you. Okay. 10 different colors this thing uses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, no, more. I'm not counting correctly. Where's my little piece of paper with all the colors on it? It uses quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 12. Wait. 13. 13 different colors in this thing. Oh, and I knitted it, not realizing it was too small. I did see that you can buy the digital pattern for like £3. I'm kind of tempted. Well, just to have it and be able to zoom in. Like that chart is so dinky. I can't remember where I got this. I think I got it. A friend had the actual magazine, the original magazine it was from, and gave me a photocopy of the pages. So I might just buy the digital pattern and then that'll be easier to work from. I can zoom it in a bit bigger. Don't know how the hell I was doing it off that little chart. That is hard to read. Okay, back to this cinnamon color. should have some music on or something like that. Chill frogging music. All right, give me a second. I will be right back. Went and got a box of tissues. My sniffling is making me crazy. Okay. Back to the frogging. So the rose with two colors, you kind of have to pull both colors at the same time. And then you stop and you wind. And yeah, the yarn is really kinked up. It's like going to sleep with, your hair in plaits or braids when you're a kid, It comes out all crimped. Yeah, this is going to take me a couple days just to undo. Just to unknit this thing is going to take some serious time. It was fun to knit the first time. It will be fun to knit again. So the other project I was thinking about casting on, and I need to see whether I have any appropriate yarn for it, is we were talking on the previous stream about The Mandalorian, because I just finally caught up on series 2. And I was saying, if you're a knitter, there was a very funny little moment that I laughed out loud. I'm sure most people wouldn't, but in episode like 3, I think 3 or 4, and this not no spoilers here, but they go to a planet that's very watery and has sort of harbor and fishermen. And there's a shot, one of the, just a side character, not really important, but there's a scene of a Mon Calamari, which is, everyone knows, it's a trap from the original movies. That was Mon Calamari. They look like, fish squid people. But there's a shot of a Mon Calamari like longshoreman wearing a cabled fisherman's jumper in this sort of very New England looking harbory, watery planet. And it cracked me up that they put him in this cabled fisherman's, Aran sweater. And of course, Woban pointed out on the last stream, because I had the same thought, somebody has already screen capped it and then reverse engineered the cables. So it's already on Ravelry, the Mon Calamari sweater from The Mandalorian. The cables anyway, and then you just map them to whatever sweater size you want to do. So I kind of think that would be fun to do the Mon Calamari cabled sweater. So I'll see if I've got some appropriate yarn to do an Aran. Feeling I haven't done any cables for a while. I've been doing all this Fair Isle. A lot of different styles of knitting are named after the place where they originate. So we talk about Fair Isle knitting, which is from the Fair Isles. We talk about Aran knitting, which is the Isle of Aran. What else? Shetland. Shetland lace is from the Shetland Islands. That refers to both styles of the types of wool that they had available, the traditional patterns as well. Fair Isle is this 2-color stranded Aran is heavily cabled, you know. So it's kind of neat. I mean, the other sort of popular or widely known places famous for knitting, Estonian lace is a thing. Estonia has a long knitting tradition and specifically beautiful lace. We're talking a little bit about Icelandic knitting on the last stream because Emily was saying she had knitted in Icelandic. The wool is called lopi. I believe that's also the style. And I was saying, you know, I've been to Reykjavik and was tempted because they had lots of, you know, in the tourist shops, either finished garments or kits. And I, of course, would have knitted my own kits to make one. But the Icelandic wool, the lopi wool, and I don't know if it's the sheep they have. Well, it must be the sheep they have. It's very hairy, very thick spun and this is not merino, you know, and I'm a bit spoiled being an Aussie that you know, merino is soft and has a long staple, you know, which means it isn't super hairy. You know, this sweater is merino and I could wear this next to my skin. Like it doesn't, you know, if you're a person who gets irritated, there's no way you would wear lopi next to your skin. It would be like wearing a hair shirt. And, you know, as near as I can tell, the idea is it's outerwear. You know, you wear it over your clothes to keep you warm and sure, but just doesn't get cold enough in Sydney really to merit that. And so, yeah, I didn't end up buying any of the lopi yarn to do a lopi sweater, but that's another sort of geographic knitting tradition. You know, Norwegian sweaters tend to be the sort of skiing sweaters, and they're similar, actually, quite more like this one. This is a bit more Lanatas here is a bit more sort of in the Scandi Norwegian style than I would say Fair Isle because it's two color. A lot of the Norwegian ones are just two colors. And I think even black and white specifically is very Norwegian, I think. You should have seen the insane math I was doing, trying to like will this sweater to like I'm scribbling all these numbers and calculations of like how many. I was counting how many stitches were on the thing. I was figuring out what row I was on. I was trying to work out. I went and I actually like put my head in it, even though it's staked, so I couldn't really pull it on my body to try and you know what? I could still at this point pull it on myself. You know, I'm going to do that. Next time I get a color here, I'm actually going to go and pull this over my, you know, once I get to the armholes. Once I get to the armholes, I'm going to take the tube just as my final like sanity check that no, there's no way this can be rescued. I will go and I'll slip the tube over my head and around my torso to prove to myself once and for all that there would be no point in continuing onward with this garment. Because sadly, it is just too, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, not going to fit. And why bother making custom clothing if it doesn't actually fit you? So no knitting to knitting with Kris, just unknitting. What's the name of Odysseus's wife, you know, who weaves all day and then at night unweaves it to try and keep the suitors away until Odysseus gets home? Yeah, that's I'm being a classical heroine. What color is that? Is that this? Yeah, it's this yellowy color. 13 different colors, as we counted earlier. Yeah, Winter. Hi, Winter. What was her name? Odysseus's wife. Oh, I can't remember. It was on Jeopardy the other night. That's why it's stuck in my head. Unmaking. 13 different colors, and I'm just rewinding the balls as I go. I could wind them into hanks and give them a bath. Literally what you do is you just sort of wind them into a loose hank, you know, like wind it around. your elbow, or if you have a nitty noddy, not many people do. Penelope, yes, thank blank script gaming. Penelope is who I'm thinking of. Yes, I'm being very Penelope here. Wow, I got some classical fans tonight. Um, yeah, technically you'd wind this into a sort of loose hank, and then, literally, the way I understand, I haven't done it, but you put it in the bath. You give it a light hand wash, and then lay the hanks out to dry. And it's just to get rid of the kinks. And so, actually I should. So maybe once I've got them all unknit and rewound, I will do that. I will wind some loose hanks and then give them a bath, and so that because otherwise when you knit with it, you knit with it and it's all kinked up and the elasticity's gone. So sometimes one of the things, I know people who want to knit and they want to be sustainable. One way of being sustainable is to buy old sweaters at the op shop and actually undo them. And if you're going to do that, you'll want to do this. You'll want to actually wind it into a hank and give it a bath. You took mythology in your sophomore year of high school. See, I feel like there was this thing where a lot of us nerdy types got really into mythology. I was into it in 8th grade. But I feel like, a lot of geeks got into mythology. Margaret wants to reread the recent translation of the Odyssey. Yeah, we've been reading, it's not the Greek mythology, but Neil Gaiman did the Norse mythology recently, did a new version of that, which is really quite good. I'm going to blow my nose again and put it on mute. This dusty old wool is triggering my allergies. Yeah, the only trick, I was talking about the op shop jumpers, getting an op shop jumper, or we say op shop in Australia. In America, I would have said Goodwill, basically a secondhand shop. So if you buy a secondhand sweater to unravel to reclaim the wool, it's absolutely fine to do. You can do that. What you want to watch out for, though, is, if it was really hand knit, you'll be able to get long strands of wool. If it was machine knitted and then sewn together, it might be that every time you unpick the front, it's cut, because they actually knitted fabric, cut it, and sewed it together. So you want to have a look at the seams inside and try and work out if it actually is hand knit, if you will be able to get long, continuous strands of wool if you unwind it. Because otherwise, if it's a machine knit, there's really no point. You'll end up with just hundreds and hundreds of cut threads, and it wouldn't really be worth doing. Didn't know that. Is that the new one of the Odyssey? Is that the one that was the social media post going around, Margaret, where the woman, the classicist, and the guy called her out because she's done it where she's translated, a lot of the translations were done by men, and some of the translations are that this woman who's done the recent version, the classicist, feels are not accurate. So there are, for example, I think there's references to women's servants, and she's actually translated it as slaves because guess what? They would have actually been slaves. And there's a few instances of where a man classicist translator makes a different assumption about the connotation of a word that isn't necessarily what was originally intended. I saw that because someone shared about it, and of course some guy got all, why do feminists have to ruin everything about it, and that's all well and good, but you should leave the actual work to the real translators of this stuff. And she's like, what do you think a classicist is? Because it was clear that this person had no clue that she actually was an expert and in ancient Greek and wasn't just doing this, to stir the pot, which was fun. I did read about that. That's Emily Wilson was her name. Thank you, Margaret. Sounds interesting. Cinnamony color. I love how this is ostensibly a knitting stream, but we always end up talking about really random stuff. Penelope, that's right. Penelope, and she knows he's coming back. She thinks he's still alive. Everybody else thinks he's dead, and the suitors are coming because they want to marry her. And so she says she'll choose one of them once she finishes weaving her thing, and every night she goes back and she undoes what she did. Maybe I'll call this the Penelope vest. What are you studying in uni, Margaret? What are you doing your degree in again? Honestly, this year, COVID year, I'm not reading anything hard. I'm giving myself a break. Nearly down to the armpits. And yeah, I'll go try it on and we'll see what it looks like. If I'll go and check and show you if there's any chance that, but again, I'm willing the laws of reality and physics to be other than they are, because there's no way it's going to fit. Like, I've measured it. It cannot fit. Data science. That's what I thought it was. Data science. Oh, that's cool. Oh, see, it's all getting all kinked up on itself now, and then I've got to sort of stop and pull out the tangles. Really wants to tangle up. Blank script. Radiology major. Oh, that's really cool. Data science and radiology, these are both areas that I understand are going to be much in demand in the future. Anything health related. And yeah, data science. Even to the extent that you're probably intersecting too, because, more and more, I believe we're using machine learning and AI ML to flag anomalies in scans and things that then you get an expert to look at. Autumn elective regression analysis. Oh, organic chemistry, or orgo, as I believe we called it in uni. That, good on you. So are all the Australian unis still doing remote anyway, Margaret? I'm sure they are. Is anybody back to doing in-person classes? Margaret's back in Sydney, for those who don't know. Back where I came from 4 months ago. Smart people watching my stream. Where I admit that I spent hundreds of hours knitting the wrong thing, the wrong size. I work in technology. Blank script. I do hybrid classes because of, oh, okay. Yeah, I imagine with a topic like radiology, there would be a fair amount of, hands-on stuff. Did you see the statistic that, like, last week 1 in 50 British people had COVID? It's just nuts. We've just had our lockdown extended as of today. Angela, I got to tell you, it's fun to live in the country where your head of government is a scientist, is literally a chemist. Makes me feel a little bit like I feel a little bit more safe in that scenario than I do, than I would anywhere else. I got to admit, when we left Australia and then Australia was doing so well that there was a little bit of me like being quite jealous as I saw all the Facebook photos of people like going out to restaurants and meeting up with friends. And then of course, it's all turned to crap. So sorry for you all. Makes me feel less regretful of my life choices. Yeah, Angela got all the state leaders together today and they decided to lock us to go to the end of the month, and we're not allowed to meet with, you can only have one person like from outside your household at a time. I believe, I think the schools are all shut. It's Christmas holidays anyway right now, but I think schools are all shut. All non-essential shops are closed. Oh, winter, North Jersey. Whew. Yeah. But New York got hit hard early, didn't they? I mean, is it still bad in New York? I had thought that the worst was sort of past, but maybe that doesn't apply in the US anymore. I did see my sister-in-law, the nurse back in Indiana, got her second vaccination today. So I was very happy about that. And my great aunt, my father's aunt who lives in Florida, she's 80, has been in the hospital with it on oxygen, but got discharged today. Unfortunately, her husband is still in there, but she was able to get out today. So fingers crossed. I saw, who did I see? Someone I saw, I think it was in Florida. They're using Eventbrite to schedule their immunization. Like, oh God, it's just. I think Germany are looking at the thing though where they might, instead of giving everybody 2 doses, instead prioritize giving everybody the first dose and delay the second so that you get more people partly covered. Because I've seen some discussion of that. All right, nearly up to the armpits. Yeah, the Midwest. My family, the bulk of my family are in Indiana, and it's very bad, very very bad. That's where my sister-in-law lives, the nurse. Uh, it ran rampant through the Amish community. Um, it's just very 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 bad. My mother had it. My stepfather, his mother, thank goodness, all recovered. Um, but yeah, we I mean, I moved here to travel Europe, so of course that's kind of sucked. But hey, I have my health and I have a decent job and I'm not complaining. But we actually made very special reservations at a restaurant in Italy in April, thinking that's far enough. We made it like months ago, thinking that's far enough out. Surely by April we'll be able to go to Italy. It's not looking good, folks. It is not looking good. And I'm gonna cry if I can't go. Margaret's response: Eventbrite's probably better designed than a lot of government projects. Well, you're not wrong. I mean, but the idea that it's like freaking Ticketmaster and people are in there hitting refresh trying to get. I think I saw the follow up to that was like all 800 appointment slots were gone in like 2 minutes or something. That's grim stuff. Okay. Another motif gone. So if you're in Jersey, you're up. No, it's not. It's not morning there. It's middle of the day there. Middle of the day in the U.S. I'm still getting time zones all wrong. Normally, I stream. For those of you who don't know, I normally stream Sunday morning Germany time, which is late night, late night America. Very late night America. It is evening in Australia. So that's my normal time. It's just today happened to be a public holiday in Munich. We had been told this. Munich, Bavaria is is quite conservative and religious. I mean, they said that. I grew up in the Bible Belt. It's not conservative and religious here, but we do have a lot of religious holidays, and so apparently we get like 10 extra public holidays a year because of being in Bavaria. To the extent that like my German colleague in Hamburg told me that they get an extra day off just to try and make up for the fact that in Bavaria, the state of Bavaria I'm in, we get so many extra public holidays. So today is Epiphany. It's the 12 days after Christmas, so we get the day off. I only found out on Monday. My husband's like, do you know Wednesday's a public holiday? I went, huh? Sweet. Just for us. So I thought, maybe I'll do some streaming. Okay, this is sort of a minty green color. I'm only about an inch from the armpit, at which point I'll try it on and we can all laugh at how I ever thought that this was going to fit me. So yeah, I believe today, winter, is the day you're supposed to take down your Christmas decorations. It's 12 days. So we did. I bought a little living tree from a florist back in early December, a little Christmas tree, and I had decorations on it. So I took it down today, and we've actually put him, because he's in a pot, we put him out in the garden. So we'll use him again next year. But yeah, took down the Christmas lights around the tree, left the Christmas lights up around the house because, my God, is it depressing otherwise, and we'll just leave them up. Green, dark green, that is. Yes, exactly. Put away your Christmas Lego. 12th night, that's it. 12th night is Epiphany, isn't it? That's tonight. I mean, yeah, Indiana's religious, but you don't actually get vacation days out of it. It was actually funny when we were packing up to leave Australia. As part of my relocation, I got like a session with a tax advisor. They help you do your taxes in the first year. And so we're meeting with this German accountant. Yeah, I'm having a Skype call with her, and this was months ago, way before we left Sydney. And she was like, okay, I know this is going to be a strange question, but are you religious? Do you go to church? And I was like, what? And she's like, because in Germany, there is a church tax. And if you go to church, you have to pay an extra tax. I was like, are you serious? She goes, yeah, Americans always freak out. I'm like, no, we don't. We don't want to pay the tax. So no. She's like, cool. But yeah, if you say yes, you have to pay extra money here. Yeah, the Australian public holidays are as well. And we do get those as well. I mean, we get, Easter Monday here and the normal holidays, but we just seem to get a lot more, like, we don't get this day off in Australia. And there's various, I looked up a calendar of holidays in Munich, and there's various, sort of saints' days and things like that. So, all right, I'll take it. Okay. All right, there's the green done. There's the cinnamon done. This yarn really sticks to itself. It's funny. I saw these people saying it wouldn't felt. Maybe it will. Like, I don't know. I guess the rayon makes it not felt, but it is sticky. It does not want to come undone very easily. And that is that bluey color, the dark bluey color. Well, to be fair, the U.S. doesn't get all the Jewish holidays off. I mean, I think, they're considered bank holidays or something like that. But like in Indiana, we never got any Jewish holidays off. But yeah. All right. Okay. Nearly the armpits so I can try this sucker on. So I couldn't try it on before because it narrows, you know, uh, uh, through this part of the body, versus an actual human being gets wider at the point of their armpits and their arms. So I couldn't try it on before, but now I will be able to try it on. Here we go. Like, I don't think this is gonna unravel at all when I stop. Okay, that's the cast off bit. Such a shame, all that work. Sunk cost fallacy, right? Right. Does not want to come undone. Did you see today, by the way, I was just thinking about the runoff elections in Georgia, which we're waiting to hear the outcome of the Ossoff one. His mother's from Sydney. She's Australian. How cool is that? He's half Australian. I thought that was pretty neat. I did not know that. I actually have an Aussie friend living in Georgia as well. Okay. We are at the armpits, which means I'm going to go pull this tube over my head. I'm going to wear it like a tube top, and over my long sleeve t-shirt here, and we'll actually see if it goes around my stomach. So I will be back in 1 minute. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, it goes around, but it is snug on my belly. So, I mean, it's not meant to be a form fit. It's a cardigan. It's meant to be worn over other clothing. So, yeah. Confirmed. It's too small. I'm going to take it off and keep unknitting it. Well, it was good to at least confirm that. Oh, but look at the inside. The inside is almost as pretty as the outside, you guys. Oh, so much work. It's so thick. No regrets. Pulling it apart. Yeah. A cardigan is not meant to be skin tight. Not meant to highlight the pot belly. This is the pinky color. What is that? I think that's peony. Peony and bilberry for the purple. I don't know if anyone's just joined in, but yeah, I'm not knitting, I'm unknitting. I have determined that this cardigan that I started knitting several years ago is never going to fit. Don't know why I didn't determine that earlier. I think I knew. That's why it's been sitting in the naughty corner for so long. I have a New Year's resolution of dealing with it. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm dealing with it. Right now, why? How is it? It's just caught on itself. There we go. So yeah, the plan I've decided is to reclaim the wool. I will then wind it into some loose hanks and give it a bath and let it dry to get all the, you can see how, if I hold it again, you can see how kinky it is, you know, how curly it is. So I'll wash it to get rid of the crimpiness. And then I will find a women's 8-ply Fair Isle sleeveless jumper, sleeveless vest, a pattern with shaping. Find a basic pattern for that or make up my own. And just use the chart from this. So I'll use the same wool and the same chart. And I did see someone on Ravelry had done that. Someone made a sleeveless vest out of it instead. Cardigans are a little, I don't knit little twee cardigans. I mean, I like the picture just to show you again what it's supposed to look like. That's the pattern. And look, this is Ravelry's whole thing, you know, some sort of like English rose kind of a thing. She's not me. But of course, you fall in love with the picture of a pattern and you imagine that if you knit it, that you will magically become this person. But I'd rather knit something that will actually flatter me and that I will wear. Oh, I should see what we're going to do about dinner tonight. Where's my phone gone? There it is. Oops. Yeah, this will take me a few nights to just get it unknitted. I mean, I can't, like I said, if I were going to knit it bigger, which is an option, stick with the pattern. But the pattern is, it's one of the things, Rowan patterns look great, but the way it's written, like it's written flat to be sewn up, which ain't nobody got time to knit 3 color in a row Fair Isle flat back and forth. So yeah, the patterns are often written in a way that is not the most efficient way of writing them. And so I'd have to contend with the pattern and again adapt it. And yeah, I think I would need more wool. I mean, I know I've got 13 balls here, but like this purple color, I was nearly at the end of it and I hadn't even done the sleeves yet. So if I was going to make it bigger, I would definitely need another ball of that color, at least. So if you haven't followed me, by the way, you can hit the follow button and you'll be notified when I do stream. As I said, it's normally only once a week on Sundays, but maybe on some of these many Munich public holidays that we have coming up, I will probably do it, especially as we're under lockdown and I'm going nuts not being able to talk to people in person. Talking to you guys feels like I'm being social. Oh, this wool's making me sneeze. I bought this wool in Balmain in Sydney. This is a very posh suburb. There was a knitting shop there that my friend worked at and was going out of business. And she got like a hefty employee discount, which she invited me to come and abuse. So thank you, Donna. So despite it being fairly expensive wool, I did get it for at least a bit of a discount in terms of Aussie dollars. Not a very portable project with 13 balls of different wool and a chart that looks like an eye test. So maybe I do need another project so that I can have some on the go easy knitting as well. So much dust. Even though I had it in a bag the whole time. I also, for the previous streams, if you want to see the streams where I was working on this top on Lenatus, they stay up on Twitch for 2 weeks and then I archive them to my YouTube channel. So, and oddly, like I discovered the other day, I don't often look at YouTube. I've got a whole bunch of followers there as well. So random. But there's my YouTube channel. So if you want to follow there, that's where I archive the old episodes. All the old episodes, about a week after I do them, I copy them over to YouTube. So they're available on there. Oh, I did see something interesting on Twitter knitting related. Let me just pull that up. And I retweeted. There's going to be a talk. I don't know if it's of interest to you all. Here it is. The University of Glasgow, there's a Twitter account, U of G Knitting. But I'll put the link to this up here. But basically, they're going to have an online curator's colloquium on knitted textiles, and it's free and it's online, and it's coming up like next week. And so they're going to share knowledge and practice regarding the collection, conservation, preservation, and interpretation of knitting collections, talking specifically around like museums and knitting textiles. And of course, in Glasgow in Scotland, knitting is a huge part of their cultural history. And so they're doing this free, and I'll put the event right up there, but this free colloquium on it. And so I saw a tweet about it, which is very relevant to my interests and probably yours as well, maybe. I mean, I'm not a curator or a historian myself, but, we were talking about how different some of these knitting styles came to be named after the places, and how it's very much, piecework was often the only work women could do. Some of these ferrule used to be knitted by women at home while they're looking after their children. The cultural history of that I find really fascinating, and so I'm it's in a good time zone for me here in Europe. I don't know about the rest of yous. So please have a look. Maybe if you register, you might be able, I don't know if you'll be able to watch it after the fact, but it looks fairly interesting. So that is my knitting event of the week, if you're interested. And I am probably going to wind it up here in just a few moments, folks, and go and take a Zyrtec. Oh my gosh. And make some dinner. Maybe that's another tip for rescuing old jumpers from the op shop, is give them a good wash, because they might get dusty and trigger your allergies. What row was I on to that one? Well, thank you for the mythology discussion, and the person who pointed out Penelope. That's definitely who I was thinking of, and maybe I will look up that translation of the Odyssey. What I really want is I want like an annotated version. I'm a big fan of like the annotated versions of things where they give you the lots of footnotes with extra context and stuff like that. I haven't read anything but fanfic for so long, just because I can't. I just need things that cheer me up. It's funny looking at the different kinks in the yarn. So this one was used in a motif that sort of, it was only every other few stitches, which it produces a sort of very interesting pattern in the yarn, as opposed to one where I'm knitting every stitch and it's just very, very crimped. What's that aqua-y color? Watery, I think this one is called. Well, it's a bit disappointing. I know the other day when I pulled this thing out, I did think that it's bigger. I in my mind it was way small, like super small. No way, and it's deceptive. Maybe I'll give myself a little bit. Won't be quite so hard on myself for getting it wrong, because it is deceptive. It does look like it would fit me, but it's a cardigan. We've talked about this. I talked about it. I've done a couple streams where I sew instead of just knit. A cardigan is meant to be an outer layer over other things. It needs to have a certain amount of positive ease, meaning it needs to be bigger than you are. That, ease is the measurement between how much bigger the garment is than your skin. Because otherwise, if it's exactly the same size as you, it's skin tight. I mean, sometimes you knit things that have negative ease, like a swimsuit, or you knit a ribbed thing that's meant to be quite form-fitting, and those have negative ease. You knit them smaller than the body because they stretch. But a cardigan, you don't normally knit a cardigan with negative ease. It's meant to be bigger than you, because otherwise it'll be straining at the buttons on the front, and who wants that? So it was doomed. I should have realized it was doomed and stopped instead of. But it was so fun to knit. I was just, can't blame me. It was good fun. Rip it, rip it, rip it. That's why we call it frogging. I demonstrated tinking on an earlier stream on Lanatus here when what did I do? I dropped a stitch. Oh, that's right. When I was going around and around the sleeves, I discovered I dropped a stitch like an inch earlier. And it was right when I was setting up the sleeve ribbing. And so I actually did have to tink a bit, which tink is knitting spelled backwards. And yes, I have the annotated Alice too, as well, Margaret. It's really good. The annotated Pride and Prejudice, also excellent. But yeah, tinking is where you knit backwards, which is unknitting one stitch at a time. And so you do that if you're only doing, a few stitches, but that's not going to work for something like this. For this, you just got to take the needle out and rip it good. I didn't think I brought that one with me, Margaret. We only brought a small number of books. Most of our books are still in storage back in Sydney. But yeah, I got a couple annotated ones. Annotated Pride and Prejudice is very good. Maybe I also wouldn't sneeze if I wasn't winding it right in front of my face and wafting the dust right in my nose. Okay, we've hit an hour and a half. And let me finish this green yarn. That's a good stopping point. Rod's down there getting ready for dinner, so I better go help him. Anyway, thanks for joining me tonight and making this depressing task a little more palatable by having somebody to talk to while I did it instead of just sitting here and feeling stupid and having to undo all this work. So thank you for joining me. I'll be back on Sunday morning, Munich time, and hopefully by then, maybe I'll actually be knitting something instead of just taking something apart. I hope so. But anyway, have a great end of the week. And follow me if you haven't so you get notified when I am. And I will see you on Sunday. Cheers, everybody.